Hey guys, Ryan here. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about my favorite sniper supports after the recent round of weapon changes that Raven went and made. I am going to begin by talking about the top 5 Vanguard sniper supports, and then after that, I'm going to mention Modern Warfare and Cold War sniper supports that are still worth running. I'll also be giving attachments and the best builds for every gun after I break them down a little bit. So if you enjoy this video, do consider leaving a like, do consider subscribing. It does please the YouTube gods, and I just want to say thank you for watching, and I hope you have a good day. First things first, I just also want to say that this list is in no particular order, so don't pay attention necessarily to what order they're in, but let's get into it and begin with the MP40. Now, the MP40, despite getting nerfed, still remains extremely strong, and it's in contention for being one of the best guns in the game, once again, even after the nerfs. But one of the main things I really like about it as a sniper support is it just feels one of the most mobile of all the options. It is one of the best sniper supports for use between 0 and 10 meters, and it's just outright one of my favorite sniper supports based on feel. I'm sure you guys can all relate, but when you find that ground loot MP40 or you pick someone's up, it just always kind of feels good in the hands, and you can really notice it when using a sniper support because it just feels good also in the mid-range. I will say though, if you're looking for other options in the MP40, then trust me, there are plenty. I'm not going to spend too long talking about the MP40. Everyone already knows how good the gun is. It doesn't need to really be stressed too much further, but I did just want to mention it because it still really is just an absolutely top tier sniper support. So moving on from there, we're going to move on to the Volks. I'm pretty sure in German it's like Volkssturmgewehr or something like that, but I'm just going to call it the Volks. It's easier. So this is one of my favorite assault rifle sniper supports right now in the game. This thing is a little bit more of a mid-range specialist, so that's one thing I'd really consider when using it. It's not as good as the Cooper Carbine up close, but for me, when you're talking about AR sniper supports and most sniper supports in general, this thing is amazing in the mid-range, and that's why I love it so much. It really shines on Caldera. When you're playing on Rebirth, it still is really good, but because of how close range that map can be, it's not as good. When you're playing on Caldera and a lot more of your engagements are going to take place outside of 10 meters, you're going to notice the power. It has really low recoil for a gun like this. It has great mobility when you're aimed down sight, and it's just one of those guns that I really enjoy using. So to wrap up talking about this gun, if you're looking for a more mid-range orientated sniper support, then I think this is the one you're going to want to go with. There are of course other options for the mid-range, but this is the one I'm really enjoying the most. So let's move on to number 3, the Cooper Carbine. Now honestly, if you were to ask me what is outright my favorite sniper support to use, it'd probably be the Cooper Carbine or the MP40. The reason I'd say those two, and particularly the Cooper Carbine, is because for some reason, whenever I use this thing, I just kill people. I don't know how to describe it, but whenever I'm in a close range gunfight, whenever I'm using this thing, I am just constantly surprised by how easy it is for me to kill people. I feel like I'm winning gunfights I shouldn't. I feel like I'm winning gunfights I wouldn't on other guns, and there's just something about it that remains super strong. This is outright one of my favorite guns to use period in the entire game, but especially as a sniper support, this is so enjoyable. It just fits that role so well. It is an AR, so there's something to be aware of. It's not as mobile as other guns. It's not as mobile as the Volks, for example, but for me, the damage, the way that it just kills people up close, it's almost unmatched. I have talked about it before, but I think after the recent changes, after a bunch of balance changes and shifts to power and whatnot, this thing has kind of risen a little bit over the other guns in my eyes. And as I said before, I'm not trying to rank these guns, and this is in no particular order, but if you were to outright ask me what is the number 1 gun I think on this list, I'd probably say the Cooper Carbine. I do think the MP40 is a very close second, and the other ones are all very close, but the Cooper Carbine really stands out for how good it is. However, it is very possible that if you try the Cooper Carbine, you may not enjoy it as much as I do, and please keep that in mind. This is my opinion, and I don't want to act like my opinion is just a completely objective fact or truth. That is not the point of these videos. Is to help you find the best gun for yourself, and that's why I like to give a lot of options instead of just making videos about one gun, because I find that most people just don't necessarily vibe with one gun, and with the new metas and everything, there's oftentimes multiple viable weapons that can be used in multiple roles at any given time. So do keep that in mind, but let's move on to the number 4th gun on this list, and that's going to be the AS44. Now, for me, and in my eyes, the AS44 is kind of a weird one. The damage honestly feels really good, it feels pretty enjoyable to use, but then you start using it at certain ranges, and it just has so much kick at sometimes, it's hard to control, but then other times it feels like an absolute melt machine, and what I think you're going to find is once you get a hang of it, once you get the feel for the gun's recoil and the way that the recoil pattern works, you're going to start frying with it. But until then, it can feel a little weird, And that is just something you have to be aware of. It has really high potential because of its damage capabilities, because of how good the damage is at decent ranges, but it does suffer from the fact that it does have higher recoil than almost any other gun on this list. Now, that isn't to say it is not manageable, that it is not good, because it is really good. But you do have to keep that in mind when using it, that the recoil is going to be something you might have to battle at first. But once you get a feel for it, once you get the gun leveled up, it will melt. It will be worth the time. This isn't going to be necessarily one of the top tier sniper supports in my opinion. This would definitely be on the lower side of the list. But I wanted to put it on here just because I think the potential for this gun is so high. So next up on the list is going to be the Owen Gun. Now, I meant to have footage for it, but the footage I recorded got all messed up. So I'm just going to have it play in the background. And I'm also just going to say, I've already made a video on the Owen Gun sniper support just in and of itself. So if you are really looking for footage and you want to know more about the gun in general, I do have an entire video on it, and I talked about it in my last sniper support video as well, and everything I said then is just as relevant now. The Owen Gun is amazing. It is one of the best sniper supports. It is one of the best SMGs. It has a very peculiar feel though. If you can't get over the feel, if you don't really vibe with it, don't feel pressure to use it. But some people, like my friend who I play with a lot, who has right around a 1 KD, he loves this thing and has been absolutely destroying kids with it more than almost any other SMG. If it's good in his hands, then it can be great in almost anyone's hands. And that's not a diss to my friend. He is a great player. But the point I want to get across is he's the average player. He is not an ultra sweat like someone like me. He's an average player who represents the more casual side things. And so if he can use a gun that's considered kind of high skill cap, then I think almost anyone can use it. The reason some people say that the Owen Gun is not as forgiving is because it has kind of decent recoil in comparison to some of the other SMGs, and it also has a pretty slow rate of fire. So if you're missing your shots, you're going to be really punished in terms of time to kill, and that's where some people think it's kind of a more high skill cap weapon. But I also just think that the base strength of the gun is so high and the ease of use is there and the recoil is not too intense, that's worth the use for almost anyone. So moving on from there, let's talk about the Cold War and Modern Warfare SMGs you should really consider using. Well, I shouldn't just say SMGs, because the first one I want to talk about is the Cold War AK. The Cold War AK is still a top tier sniper support. It is absolutely amazing. And if I were to make a top 5 list overall in the entire game, you would probably see the Cold War AK on there. It's not necessarily the best right now, I think, but I just think it's super good. It's super worth using, and it's something I personally enjoy using a lot. Moving on from there, I'd really recommend the CX9, the MP7 from Modern Warfare, and from Cold War, pretty much any of the sniper supports like the MAC-10, the Bullfrog, the Milano. Okay, maybe not the Milano actually. The time to kill is maybe a little too low now. But a lot of those, they're still really good and they're really worth using. The Lapa with the right barrel's worth using. The Bullfrog in particular is just always going to feel good, as well as the MAC-10. These guns are going to forever kind of have a spot, and that's one thing I just really recommend. If you do like those guns, if you used to really like those guns, the power hasn't changed too much and you're probably going to get by using those guns without too much of an issue. Of course, there may be better options, there may be better guns out there, but I do really think that some people are limiting themselves too much, and the old guns, while they are maybe sometimes not as good, for the most part they maintain their place in the meta tremendously. So don't sleep on guns like the MP7, the CX9, Bullfrog, MAC-10, Cold War AK, XM4. There's a countless list of guns you can use, but all of those that I did list, they're all pretty freaking good. I hope you guys enjoy this video. I hope you guys enjoy content like this. I hope you guys stick around for future videos. And I just want to say thank you for watching this video. I love making these videos. I love spending the time doing this. And I hope I can keep doing this. So once again, thank you for watching the video. It's been Ryan. Have a good day. Peace.